My little daughter had turned 5 years old and became very ill. We ended up going to the hospital where she was admitted for a little bit over a week, and they ran every test you can imagine. Like from injecting her with dye for an x-ray, which is very painful, to biopsies, to she was having blood work constantly because her blood wasn't clotting, and they didn't know what was wrong. And when they discharged us, they told us it was a virus. My mother during that time never showed up at the hospital. There was no audience. It was just me and my daughter and my then boyfriend, who ended up being my husband, and then my ex-husband. He came every day. He was there constantly. He was my rock. I took my daughter to a pediatrician who referred us to another doctor appointment, and when I turned up at that doctor appointment, it was in a hospital, and it was the pediatric oncology unit. They were looking for leukemia. I had no idea prior to getting there that that's what we were going in for. I called my mother. That's what we do. She said, call me when the test is done. There was no audience for her to show up for. It turned out that my daughter has something called Gaucher's disease. It's a rare genetic illness. It was very rare back then. There was no treatment at that time. There was no cure. It was life-threatening, and we were just going to have to monitor her for about 3 years until other procedures would come into play, and she likely would not have made it past her 9th birthday. That was what we were left with. My mother called me and said, let's take her to Boston, let's fly her there, let's have more tests, let's do this, let's do that. We had the test results, and they were actually being monitored by the lab in Boston because it was the only facility that was looking for a treatment or a cure associated with this disease. What my mother wanted was to use my little girl as a pincushion so she could look like the grandmother of the year. They have no boundaries. They have no feeling. They have no empathy. They are not fixable. And if you ever doubt that, think about the kind of person you would have to be to put your child through torturous tests just to look good.